Yo.
Hey, welcome to the new meta, episode 117.
117. Hey, Spartan 117. Wow. I don't know if I ever mentioned this, but I used to be a bit of a Halo pro.
Did you see those next-gen graphics on Halo 6, 7, whatever Halo this is?
Infinite.
They looked infinite.
How do you go past Infinite, by the way? What if they have another Halo after this?
Yeah, it's like Halo Infinite +1.
Yeah.
Infinity?
Oh, gosh.
They just call it Infinity.
Weird.
I don't know. Anyways, episode 117. Welcome to the new meta. There's not really much to talk about today.
Yeah.
We had to scour so hard to find topics to talk about.
We got another Goblin post to talk about tonight. Oh, yeah. Super exciting.
Yeah. I'm glad. Listen, Sally Couch Co-op. I'm glad that you got that Goblin pack. You know,
juicy one too.
There's a couple things that happened today. And you know what? One of them actually happened before the podcast. It didn't happen on Wednesday, the day after the podcast.
Well, the last thing happened. The PTR happened the day after the podcast. But
yeah, we're batting schedule. Like 1%. But right. At least we got one. So,
yeah.
If you're living under a rock, we got patch notes for season 22, patch 2.6.10, and we also got the Diablo 4 development dev blog
quarter
update.
3.
Yeah, quarter 3 development update.
Huge. What should we talk about first? Like, honestly, I feel like everyone's honestly, excited about D4
for me. But
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Like, which one should we touch on first? Chat. Quick poll. 4 for Diablo 4, 3 for Diablo 3. Let's go.
Quick.
Just spam it. But yeah, while we do that, the polls.
We talk about the polls.
Yeah.
Polls.
But yeah, so last week we asked, what are you more interested in hearing about for Diablo 4? Skill trees or itemization updates? Super topical.
Yeah, I see a lot of 4s.
Yeah, a lot of 4s.
Looks like we're gonna hit up 4 first.
Okay. 3.5. Isn't that the same as Diablo 4? Smile.
Right. So toxic, man. You know what? You're gonna get your virtual invite revoked. You keep fucking around.
True.
You're not even gonna get a virtual invite, dude.
Yeah.
So the poll was, again, just to repeat in case you missed, he said, what are you more interested in hearing about Diablo 4 skill trees or itemization?
Yeah. Updates.
What do you think, man? Me personally, itemization, but you know, they're both important. They're both good.
Well, you got to think about this, like, just erase what you saw today from your memory.
You can't undo
it.
Wait, what is this back? This is not.
You asked for a skill tree.
I even gave you the skill tree. I gave you the good one.
Yo, he's like, hey, change my background to the Diablo skill tree. I put it in the thing. You don't get to dictate what your background is, sir.
Oh my gosh.
So I gave you a skill tree. That's a skill tree, sir.
Didn't you put like unicorn Hello Kitty ponies on there or something?
Your first one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can't undo what you've seen.
Yeah.
Let's try to undo it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if we undo it,
you can't. Though.
No, we have to. If we undo it, skill trees, because we didn't know what that would look like at all.
But itemization is just as important.
It is super important, but we'd already gotten like 2 iterations on it, and we didn't know what skill tree is going to look like at all. So I would say skill tree.
Okay, I can kind of agree. I think they're both so equal, so close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see how it panned out. Pretty split.
Yeah, itemization's slightly edged out.
58% says itemization. 43%. It's changing. Stop it, chat. 43% says skill trees. Oh yeah. And then the poll for next week, which we're going to talk about first, apparently. That's what everybody wants to talk about now. What are your impressions of the quarter 3 Diablo 4 update? Absolute poggers. A nice step in the right direction. Mediocre. Unplayable.
Unplayable, huh? So toxic. Okay.
Right, please.
Vote it up. We're going to talk about this one, though. So vote
You bet
now
it.
before we influence your decision.
Exactly.
Go vote. Do it up.
Like the vote.
Let's get into it. Just beforehand, if you guys haven't heard us talk about it before, we do have a Patreon for the New Meta podcast. You can go support us there and do cool things like help us go to BlizzCon if they ever have another one, stuff like that. But in that is we do some pre-show talks, and they're pretty entertaining. Man, last week's was pretty good. This week's was pretty good. So you can go check them out if you want.
Do it. Since I'm never getting a BlizzCon invite, it really helps pave the road for me to get there. So
yeah, we gotta
appreciate that. But yeah, so the Diablo 4 quarter 3 update finally hit 1 day before it was due. Or
plenty of
late
time.
work.
That's not even the 11th hour yet. There were still 23 hours to go.
True.
You know.
Well done. But in this, we got a lot to sink our teeth into.
Why do you think it takes so long to get it? Like, do you think it's the day before the promised date? You know, do you think that's on purpose just so they can get like the latest, greatest information out? Or do you think that, I'd assume the community managers are the ones that are putting it together, but I'm not sure. You think they're like pulling teeth to get information from these devs?
Maybe.
Like, come on.
I don't know. I couldn't. Maybe they expect things to change, and so like the further out towards the end of the quarter they can get before they do the update is the most up to date, or they're just like slapping it together at the last second.
It's hard to say. This one I don't feel like was slapped together the last second though. So
okay.
I hope.
Yeah.
But all right, let's get into it.
Yeah. So right out of the gate, paragraph 1 to me is super, super duper promising. Because, so if you guys, again, been living under a rock, basically the first section they talk about ancestral demonic angelic power. And you guys know, you guys have been following the podcast for a while. This is something that neither me or Peter but big fans of. And they actually go on to talk about how, we hear you, basically. It's just not...
don't start that again.
They say, quote, it just isn't cool enough, which, that's one way of saying it.
Yeah.
And they go on to say, like, they understand that it's kind of like you have to do arithmetic or quick algebra just to, like, hit those thresholds. And on the fly, if you're swapping gear, that's probably not the most fun thing in the world. So, but they do go on to say that they like the idea of, meaningful stats or managing stats to hit thresholds. So I would expect to see demonic, ancestral, angelic to return in some form based on what they're saying here.
Yeah, I don't think the system's gone. I think the system is going to get overhauled more, which is good. It seems like, though, so I'm going to start off by saying this is maybe my favorite thing of the whole blog, which is kind of weird. But when I read this, it instantly set a tone for the blog for me that, like, oh, crap, this is pretty cool. Like, I agree with everything they said. The system's not perfect. It needs more work. They're not just going to run with it and be like, oh, cool, people said they liked it, and then it's done. But yeah, it'd be cool if we could see more direction on what they're going to do, and maybe we'll get that in the next dev blog, because it seems like they're not scrapping it, like you said. And what are they going to do with it? But he hit the points. Like, you're going to carry extra gear around to try to unlock those rewards. You're going to have to figure out if it's enough. You're going to stack whatever stat gives you the best meta that you can, and it's really not that fun. So
yeah,
I like this, man.
I like this
what
too.
Did you think when you saw it?
I was a little concerned, as we talked about, the last time around, June, is we kind of saw on like the character sheet the angelic, demonic, ancestral, and some of the feedback for those was like, oh my god, it's inspired, I love it. And so I was a little concerned that they were going to go forward with that system. And to me, I made a PowerPoint. I literally made a PowerPoint presentation of like why it's not good. So like, I was kind of freaking out a little bit. So it's good to see that.
This is a little reassuring to me.
Yeah.
It seems like most of the blog posts we've gotten, at least the last couple, have been like, oh man, they're making me more scared. And this is a step, at least in the right direction for me. I'm like, okay, cool. They get that that's not a great thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was, kick it off right.
I like
paragraph.
that.
Yeah. And then we go on to the second section where they talk about how basically they didn't want character power to feel too dependent upon items.
Okay.
Which is something I've heard Llama talk to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, and you know, when I read this, I think of, okay, well, obviously, you know, when you're in Diablo 3 and you finish your Hadrig's gift and you go from T1 to T12 all of a sudden, like that's ridiculous and not good. And obviously, you know, any kind of damage mod on an item should just never be a thing. That's just like literally bad design. Like just getting a pair of bracers and it has like a 600% damage mod on it, and now you do a higher torment just because you got that one item. It's just waiting on one particular item because it's best in slot to make you increase like 5 levels of difficulty is just
So what's your solution for power increase then?
That's a good question. I don't know that I necessarily have one. I have, you know, Llama talks a lot about that separation of like, okay, so if you're naked in Diablo 2, like you can still actually kill things. Like a mob will breathe on you and you'll die, but like you can still actually do something, and like he really likes that. I mean, I can't speak to that because I'm not a Diablo 2 player, and I've been playing Diablo 3 so long and PoE so long that like if you run around naked in either of those games, it's just lights out instantly.
Yeah, I kind of agree too. I think so. The hard part for me to digest with that is that you play these games to get items. Like it's a loot-based game. Like you play PoE, you play Diablo to get items. That's loot. And so it's hard for me to separate legendary items, because if you think about it from a PoE standpoint, that could be a gem though. It could be something that's not necessarily a piece of armor, right?
Yeah.
That would juice you up. And so you could think about maybe in Diablo 4 if it's got really cool runes and rune words and things like that. So maybe you get some really cool drop that's like, okay, that lets me combine and make some crazy kind of thing that I couldn't do before. But you know, the gear has to be important. I kind of agree with you too that just putting flat like XYZ% damage bonuses is not really healthy for the game's longevity. Although it might be cool initially, ultimately you're going to end up skewing those numbers and we'll have Diablo 3 all over again.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of agree with it, but I don't know what solution they're going to go to. Your character's skills can't be the sole source of his power, because then what's the end game? What are you doing to progress your character? You know?
I mean, yeah,
a
a lot
be
of that
something
comes from, you know, passives or, you know, other things. To me, it just.
But anybody would have access to those passives, though. Like as soon as you hit level 7, you'll have them, unless you're grinding passive skill points.
Yeah.
Which is then a Paragon style of system, and good lord.
Yeah.
You know.
I think, yeah, to me, this kind of struck me as like, oh, like, I feel like from BlizzCon, we all kind of knew that, well, we're never going to put damage mods on items again. And that was like a, yay, thank you for never doing that again. So to say this again, I don't know, unless they're kind of going down a different road, or they want you to run around naked and still be able to kill stuff like you can in Diablo 2. You know, I know that Llamas really drove home that point with his community, so maybe that's what this is about. I don't really know, to be honest, where they're going with this. So
yeah, it would be nice to see where this is going, because it's hard for me to see like, okay, well, where is your source of power coming from? It's just like they don't really clarify what they just said. We're looking at different ways to give you power, and it's like, okay, but that's it. They don't really specify unless I don't remember properly. But yeah, so that's okay. I'm indifferent on that. Like I read that and I'm like, okay, that's really about all I got out of that. I was like, okay,
yeah, same.
Let's see what they have, you know.
I didn't really know what to do with that either. And then they go on to say, this was actually kind of fascinating to me. So they go on to talk about how should there be a difference in statting between like item qualities, like and they give an example, should magic quality items have higher affix stats than rare items? And to me, that's pretty interesting. That's something we see in Diablo 2 a bit, like a necklace, for example. I'm just making this up because I don't remember everything about Diablo 2, but for example, you could have a necklace that would roll like more cooldown reduction than a rare necklace. A magic rolled more than a rare, or you could have a magic necklace that rolled stats that didn't even exist on a rare version.
Right.
And so that kind of made it interesting. However, most of the time, unless you're a crazy min-maxer, you would probably just ignore picking up blues anyways. But it's definitely something like that could be really good.
I think so. It's really, for me, having so much Diablo 3 time, it's hard to even get the idea that blues and yellows are complete garbage out of your head.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe
Because
because I'm playing PoE, but yellows.
in Diablo 3, it's just like blues and yellows are mats. When I see them drop, I'm like, oh, those are shards. That's all I've ever seen from them, because of the way the game works. So I think every loot should have the chance to be valuable. Otherwise, what's the point of having it? Like garbage loot has a purpose a little bit to make that exciting drop feel good. You can't have everything be good, but to have an entire subclass of loot just be garbage is not a good thing. I don't think so. Um, as far as balancing the blues and yellows, like I I'll see what they put out and see if it sounds good on paper and looks good, but um, I just don't want them to put crappy legendaries in there that do nothing either. Like think about all the legendaries in Diablo 3 that are just useless. That's you're like, that's cool, does nothing.
Yeah, I think that it's a good discussion. The magic versus rare. To me, it's a little strange. I mean, I get it in D2 it kind of works, but I don't know, even most people that play D3 would probably not necessarily agree that that's a good thing. Again, you get to a certain point where you're not really picking up blues. And unless like item drops are just so low that like you can fill up your inventory with blues and yellows and not be like overburdened real quick.
Yeah, but we're also getting down the same road of like, what's our loot layout going to look like in Diablo 4? Are we going to be full legendaries in every slot again?
I mean,
Like,
based on what they've said,
we don't even know really. So it's like hard to even answer the questions when we don't know the direction that loot's going to go, but yeah, I'm assuming we're going to be legendary in every slot, every single slot.
well, so in itemization 2.0, they mentioned that you will be able to add the legendary power to a rare. So ideally, it's like a build your own legendary for whatever slot.
Yeah.
So essentially, in a nutshell, yes, you'll have a legendary every slot. Whether or not it is actually a legendary is questionable. But we know that rares or magics have 2 affixes in Diablo 4 in its current form, and rare items have 4. So if, say, you're building a build that needed cooldown reduction, and you can get 20% cooldown reduction and like maybe life on your necklace, or you could get like 10% cooldown reduction, life, and then like a fire res and a cold res. Does it feel good to forego those 2 resistances because you got that 10% more cooldown reduction? Does that feel good to have like a blue item on your like juiced up end game character? I don't know. I don't know that it works. It kind of goes against like what you're training players to do as well. Like go to rare or legendary items kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and then you're sitting there taking time to look over every single blue or yellow piece that you get. You're like, man, okay, so now I'm IDing every single blue and analyzing it. Like, there's so many things that would influence that decision. Like, what's the drop rate of equipment going to be? What's the legendaries going to look like?
Yeah.
What are the stats? How much of a difference are we talking about? Can we put any legendary item on any blue or rare piece that we want, or what's the mechanics behind it? So we don't know the answers, but to me personally, I don't know. It's hard for me to say because my gut wants to say like I would prefer to not have to care about magic items in the game, but that could be the wrong decision. It could be that like it's a really cool thing to have all loot. possibly be good, you know?
Right.
So
that wasn't a real item, by the way, chipped. It was just, it was an example. This is not real.
You can't even get that combination.
But anyways, so after that, we get kind of the introduction of the new skill tree.
This one?
This is the one.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Not that one. That'd have been nice. But we got this one.
Okay.
First impressions.
I'm just going to ask. So you start scrolling down the text to read the text, and you see the branches come up. All right. What is your initial thought? You start to see this thing. What's your initial thought?
My initial thoughts when I see the picture is like, oh, like, okay, like that looks bigger. That's good. Mm-hmm. Like it's bigger than a skill twig that we saw in the BlizzCon version. So yay. But then, obviously as you start to read, it's deceptive. It's very deceptive.
Yeah, so here's exactly what I thought the first time I scrolled down and I saw it and I go, oh my God, they literally made it on a tree. And I think they did it to kind of meme us a little bit because we called it a skill twig and they wanted to be like, no, it's a tree. And they put it on a tree. That's kind of what I felt like. And but then the more I've thought about it throughout the day, I think they put it on the tree to make it look more appealing. But like you're saying, I think it masks a little bit because think about if they would have laid this out in a straight line, how much different would this be from what they had in the previous one? I mean, a little bit, but it's not as impressive looking if you put it in just that top down split out. You know what I mean?
So as we explain this, you guys will see what I mean when I say it's very deceptive. So these squares are actual skills that you'll be able to get once you've allocated them, and they can go on one of your 6 buttons. The circles are either passives that upgrade the ability or cause it to function differently or
modifiers.
Modifiers
for set ability.
For the set ability. And then the red little gems that are really hard to see are basically passives that get unlocked down below for your, quote, passive skill tree. Whether or not, like, does it take a point here plus take a point there? I don't really understand that part. But
I thought maybe you started in the bottom too. And see, if you start at the very bottom of the red root lava,
but those wouldn't be there until you allocated these, I think.
Do you think? I think you start at the bottom and work up to the tree. If it's like level, the very ones level 1, 2, 3, 4, and you go up. And then once you collect the entire root, then you can go up and get the tree. That's what I was thinking. Because where would you start in the center of the tree? Like anywhere you want? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how it works, but it's literally a skill tree. Like you get your skills for your character from this tree. It's not a passive tree or a stat tree. Like, a lot like PoE, for example, would have a lot of like you get main stat and you get, whatever these other modifiers are, resistances and other things. And I don't see a lot of that in here. This seems to be like an actual, like, hey, you're going to get this skill if you pick this thing,
And that's why it's deceptive, because literally all they've done here, and this is going to sound toxic, but I promise it's not. I just want to make sure people understand this.
Already thinking the same thing. I know what you're going to say.
Is they literally copy pasted these skills from your spell book and just like put them onto a tree background. And it looks like, wow. But it's like, those are just the skills you already had that we already saw in the demo with some runes basically built into them on some certain skill trees, which I think we already saw as part of the original skill twig system. So this is just kind of like a different way of showing kind of what they already had, with minus, what we actually have is the meat here. So you can literally just ignore the upper tree. And this is actually our passive skill tree down here. This basically one more branch.
Bottom part again. Let me click this and see if they actually. Maybe I overlooked them talk. Yeah, see, they don't talk about. Well, maybe they did talk about it. Is that one in the bottom right there, the overcharge?
Like an
So it
example?
says, yeah, like I think they did use an example. They said overcharge, critical hit effect, lightning damage has a 3% chance to create crackling energy.
Yeah.
And it's one of those bottom branches there. It's the very last slide.
Yeah. So these are just passives that buff.
Yeah,
Like it's just like a
overcharge.
passive. This is what we would think of as a passive skill tree. Exactly. So again, the upper half of the tree is like you just ignore it. It's like your new skill
Oh
tree.
no, you are right. Yeah, you're right, because it says I didn't read the text underneath the pictures well enough. It says as you explore the branches of the tree, you will find passive points, and then they circle them. And those you spin those passive points in the roots of the tree to unlock powerful effects. So
literally the bottom of the tree is our actual skill tree in Diablo 4.
Yeah.
And we have one more branch than we had in the demo. Yeah. So again, on paper, like you see this and it's like, oh wow, like it's so much bigger, but I mean, it's really not. And to further touch on that, if we look at these, if we really break them down, like it's not like this one's probably Hydra, right? The one I'm like hovering my mouse over.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I really like Hydra. How can I make Hydra like specific to me, special to my character? And what kind of options am I going to have with Hydra? Well, you just go
Hydra.
this branch. Like that's it. Like you go that way,
Yeah.
So this is very, very unexciting to me still. I do like the aesthetic. I do even possibly like the idea of unlocking passives for you to allocate down below.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this is still insanely simple. Even though it looks complicated, it's really in its basic nature.
And then they also said that they plan to unlock 30 to 40% of the branches. So if you just look at the icons for the innermost tier circle of the tree, there's 11. It looks like there's 11 skills that you could potentially pick on that tree. And then as those branches go out, so if you got 30 to 40%, you're going to get 3 to 4 of those nodes, right? So if you pick 3 to 4 of those branches and work your way towards the tip, that's really all that they plan on giving you in the first place anyways, Yeah,
and if you really think about that in the perspective of the Diablo 3 paradigm, which, combat is very much like Diablo 3, you're going to have 6 skills. And so to me, when they say 40% of the tree, well, guess what? You get to fully max out your 6 abilities. Like, no problem. So it's like, to me, there's no choice here. It's just like, well, I like these abilities, so therefore I will max out those abilities. And then I'll get the passes down below to go with it. So it's kind of that illusion of choice. And this is, I don't know. Again, we're guessing here, but based on what we see, it's just like, it's just kind of more of the same.
Yeah, and they well, I'm kind of jumping topics in the thing, so we'll run back to that when we get there. But yeah, I kind of agree. And then the more you sit there and break it down, the more you think about it, the more it becomes. Because when I started looking at this passive tree and I started looking at, I'm figuring, okay, so what's 40%? And then you look at, well, it's 3 skills, 3 to 4 skills. You pick 3 to 4 skills off this and you go down. And then like you're saying, those are 3 to 4 skills that should just be in your skill book. So I'm like, so you're not going to get your skills in your skill book anymore by default. Now you're spending your points to unlock them.
Yeah.
And you're really not modifying to a crazy level in any of
if
it.
At
you're
all.
Just like,
there's like maybe 2 branches on this tree where it's like, oh, you have a different route for one
you have
skill.
A different choice. Yeah.
So,
or maybe you just take all of it in that branch too. Like you don't know what we're really going to do. I mean, maybe you could pick all the skills if you just went into them and didn't branch out. I don't know. You could have a really crap bunch of skill build, but it's interesting. I think the design of the tree is cool. It gives expansion room in the tree for them to make more branches and like as expansions and DLC and whatever else came out, they could keep building upon that and just branching outwards without having to redo everything. But I'm kind of I kind of think that they mean I don't know, man. I think you're right. At first, I thought they kind of memed us with the tree because they were like, "Oh, you guys are calling it a twig. We'll actually put it on a tree, so you can't call it a skill twig anymore." joke's on you.
Yeah.
But I think you're kind of right. I think it's there to hide, to give an illusion of complexity that really doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So
now to go further, I don't like this is still completely salvageable, and hopefully the community feedback will be primarily negative, constructive but negative. Now this would be kind of cool if WIS could morph itself into somewhat of a last epoch system. So say, this is your starting skill tree, and you pick, this one on the left here, for example, and all of a sudden, like, you get this cool UI, and it's like, and it like gives you a new skill tree based on that skill.
It branches out or something.
Yeah. And so this skill goes in the middle, and then like all of that skill tree is for that skill.
Yeah.
That would be really cool and amazing. Obviously way more work. Right. But it's not going to like blow. I feel like that wouldn't blow people's brains. It'd just be like, oh, wow, I have a lot of choices for this skill. It wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, God, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. Because it's like every skill would have literally a tree, and like everyone can understand that.
Right.
So I don't know.
Or it zooms in on that skill, and those branches become more than just the two major or three major paths. It's like, there's lots of things. I agree with you. I think this is better than what we had before. I agree with that. I think it's, if you're spending talent points to pick the skills you want on your character, ultimately it's kind of the same as you just have the skills in your character. You're picking which ones to put on your bar either way, right? So, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how it pans out, but
one of the things I really like from Path of Exile is the cluster jewels. They basically build your own skill tree kind of thing. And so that could be a really cool thing here too, is to say like you unlock these little, blood vessels along the tree, and then you build your own tree down below based on like either droppable or craftable like skill clusters. That would be really, really cool as well. But
yeah, I agree.
The important thing is also to build a system which you can build upon, that's expandable and future proof later on. So hopefully that's a big consideration for them as well, because you can't really do much with this.
Well, you can branch it outwards, but you're still limited to your initial skills. So
I mean, it's cool and it's a step, but I want, we always want more. That's the general theme with Diablo.
And I already know that people are going to be like, well, you guys just are always negative. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I think the demonic and angelic thing that they talked about was super cool. And we're going to hit on some other things too from the blog post. But if you actually sit down and just break it down and think about it, it's like your skills are now on your tree. They're not in your skill book.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not really what we want. That's not what I wanted. I wanted the skill tree to like influence the game. Not, I guess it does. I don't know, man. It's hard to say that this isn't what we wanted, because on paper it kind of is like, well, you want it to influence the way you play. You're picking your skills to the skill tree, and it's like, well, that influences the way you play, but it's not what we meant,
right?
So
it's weird too. In a certain way too, because as Chap was pointing out, they go on to say, if we imagine every single node on that massive skill tree affecting different skills in different ways, like,
stop.
I don't know, man. Like,
stop it, dude.
It's just I don't know. I think it's dangerous to call that out of your own skill tree. Like, just like let the community say it's massive or not massive. It's just a weird
when I was reading this. My chat actually, because I read this out loud to chat today when we were doing it, and when I said the massive skill tree, blah 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 blah, they instantly commented, "No, PoEs is massive. Yeah. This one is a twig with the branch." Like they were kind of trolling a little bit, but I don't know. This is better than what we had. That's the positive of it is.
But it's also just kind of a different way of showing what we had, almost. To an extent.
Well, yeah. They're like, well, let's move the skill twig down to the roots, and then let's add the skill page to the talent tree. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, They can make this better, though. There's still time for feedback on this. And like I said, if you guys agree, then and you have ideas for things that you want to see, make sure you give feedback. Feedback's so important on this. Not just us, like everybody. I mean, if you disagree, then give that feedback too.
Yeah, man. Have those conversations. Get involved on like YouTube comments. Get involved in the forums. Like, yeah. If you love this, like, tell them. If you hate this, tell them. Just like be constructive either way.
Yeah, if you're like, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. Like nobody's gonna pay attention to your comment after that. Like you need to just be like, hey, this is why I think this would not be good, and this is what I think would be better. You know? So, like
for example, I posted a video on this already, and one of the top comments was a guy explaining how he liked the blue items, the magic items being really good, and another guy just said, "You're a whiny little bitch." So one of those two is good feedback. And one of those is not. I'll let you guys be the judge, but just keep that in mind when you're posting.
Don't encourage people to make whiny little bitch comments. Don't tell them it's good comments, okay?
I was leaving that up to the audience. But they also go on to, we knew a lot about the Arsenal system. At BlizzCon, they actually had that kind of displayed as part of the Barbarian and what their kind of class. I don't want to say gimmick because maybe gimmick is a negative context, but like every class has their own, like little flavor.
Yeah. If you don't remember, the Arsenal system let the Barbarian switch weapons fluidly in combat. So I should probably refresh my memory on how exactly it works, but I think you would switch to was it your offhand weapon, or did you actually store a second weapon on your character in like the offhand slot, on that Arsenal slot?
Yeah, it was like Path of Exile where you like hit X. And
like he would literally switch like his weapons that he had, and it would seamlessly do it for specific abilities. If you had abilities that use that weapon type, it would automatically switch for you, and it was pretty cool.
It was
okay.
I would rather have it.
Didn't
go ahead.
No, you didn't. It kind of falls in the same boat as the Druid for me. The Druid shapeshifted into whatever form you needed to perform that action seamlessly for you. And so it took any thought or skill out of the equation. It's just like you have this skill, and if you press it, your character does an automatic animation for you. And it's kind of cool animation, but it doesn't require you to even think about it. And I think that's the downside to me for it, was that you didn't have to worry about manipulating it or using it. It was just boom, done. You know? Like for Druid, and I'm gonna go to Druid because I played that more in the demo and I remember it better. But for me, like Druid in World of Warcraft, you have to shapeshift. If you want to use a specific ability, you have to be in that form to use the ability. And I think that's one of the cool, rewarding aspects of Druid gameplay in WoW, is the shapeshifting, micromanaging your shapeshifting to get what you want to get done. And in Diablo, it was the exact opposite. It was like, you need to be a werewolf to use this, and you hit the button and you're automatically a werewolf. You need to be a bear to use this, you hit the button, you're automatically a bear.
Yeah.
So, and Arsenal worked the exact same way.
Yeah. And, to me, the Arsenal system in Diablo 4, at least the version that we saw, where it would just auto switch weapons because you cast X skill on your bard, was basically why even have it. When I think of something like the Arsenal system, I think of the Devil Hunter in Lost Ark, where you're a guy that has dual pistols. You can use a sniper rifle, you can use a shotgun. And when you switch to those skills, or you switch to those weapons, you get basically a whole new set of skills on demand,
a whole new
in
bar.
Your arsenal. Yeah. And to me, that is exciting.
Yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
Instead of just like, the skill says, well, pull out a shotgun and shoot for 60 damage. It's basically like you're not even... Like that's your skills.
You don't think about it. It's just baked into the skill. Yeah,
it's a class gimmick that you don't control.
I agree with that 100%. And like I said, people are gonna get mad at me because I'm gonna reference WoW a lot on this, because I think Druid's my favorite class in World of Warcraft, and it's what I have. I have a ton of time on Druid, but when you shapeshift on Druid, you get different bars. You get a whole new action bar every time you shapeshift into a new form. And I was really kind of expecting that in Diablo. I thought with, all that previous years of Druid to look at, and maybe that's why they didn't do it that way, is they want to differentiate it from WoW and not be like WoW. But
Diablo 2 had it that way. Like you would shapeshift into a bear, and you would have to spec out your bear skills. You don't just keep your...
I think that's a cool thing. I hope that they do that. And I agree that the Arsenal system should kind of work the same way too. You have a big two-handed weapon on, okay, so you get like, Hammer of the Ancients or some big two-handed weapon style animation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you switch to like a dual swords or daggers. And then, okay, now you have that gouge them in the face ability, whatever that, remember that nasty ability they had?
Mm-hmm.
It was gruesome. But like you can use that when you pull your daggers out,
It's funny that when we this is the tangent, but when we kind of reflect on the barbarian as a whole from BlizzCon 2019, one of the things that sticks out to most is that skill. Like I have a hard time really remembering what else the barbarian had besides the one thing that was like new and exciting. And I think that
they had
that is like that's what we need. Like we have to explore new stuff, right?
They had the boulder thing, which I remember seeing like, okay,
that was Druid though. Had the boulder.
Oh well, never mind that. Yeah, so I don't even know. I thought it was Barb that had the boulder
literally
thing.
Barb. Everything else the Barb had was from Diablo 3.
Was the same. Yeah. And that's why I just remember the knife thing because I remember the first time I did it, I was like, ooh, did I just stab that dude in the head? Like it was pretty gruesome. It was pretty,
cool,
gory. So,
but yeah, so it's a huge tangent. This is the arsenal system basically, but for the sorceress. Okay. Now, quick disclaimer, and I'm sure you noticed this too. It's gonna feel a little familiar. So basically, they get what's called the enchantment system.
So what?
Every skill, like here we are looking at the spell book again. So again, this is the stuff they just pasted onto the skill tree. But we're in our spell book, and this is that's not even a toxic thing. That's literally what they did. They just pasted these. Okay,
I know it's not, dude. But I'm just saying.
What? Okay, so if we look at these abilities, the enchantress, or it's not the enchantress, but the sorceress has this. Passive skill tree, a passive skill slot at the bottom, which is very reminiscent of Diablo 3. So basically, you click one of these, and then you select one of your skills, and that skill is no longer castable, but you get what they call the enchant slot effects on your character. So, for example, the ball lightning, the normal skill effect, you conjure a ball of lightning, slowly moves forward, zapping enemies for blah damage. But if you enchant it instead, in one of your 3 enchant slots, it says when crackling energy would form, ball lightning is formed instead. Ball lightning no longer collapses into crackling energy. So it's kind of like, it is a bit like passives. Really, really like passives from Diablo 3, but they more operate kind of like procs from like a legendary effect or something, at least from the ones we've seen. And they go on to show like an example of the meteor coming down. So like you can cast meteor and it just hurts stuff, or you can enchant meteor and while you do other stuff, it'll hurt stuff with your meteor.
It functions like Etched Sigil used to before the change we're going to talk about later, but it's casting it for you for free as you do other things. It's okay. I don't have a huge issue with the system, I guess, because they can do some cool things with these enchant slots. I guess they're not gonna solely be limited to like, it's gonna auto cast a damaging ability for you. They could do some cool things with it. Is it? You got to look at it in relationship to the druid automatically. Well, I guess we don't know what the druids is to the barb's auto weapon swapping. Like this seems way more powerful to me than the barb's auto weapon swapping. So, I don't know.
The only thing that was powerful about the barb weapon swapping was that, say you're dual wielding and you have a two-hander and you're like off your secondary weapon slot, your arsenal, you get the stats for both.
Right.
That was like the strong thing about
that was the juice they got.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is okay. Like this didn't blow me away, but I don't hate it either, I guess. Like I feel like they could do some cool things with this, at least, like because it doesn't have to be cast meteor for free. It could be, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't really have an idea, but it could be something cool. I mean, what are your thoughts? Like,
it's an idea. Like I don't mind it. There could be some really interesting combinations in here, for sure. That's exciting. I would almost like to see this. Like, I mean, to me, this is very reminiscent of Diablo 3. So my initial guttural reaction is like, "Ugh, please don't do this." But it's interesting. I like it better. Like, so say you had all these skills in your skill book, and a lot of them are just going to go to waste all the time. Yeah, I mean, selecting a passive effect for all these skills you're not even going to use would be kind of cool. So I mean, I'm down for that, I guess. It's just, I guess, how a lot of this depends on the robustness of the actual skill tree and the skill system and stuff. To me,
Yeah, I agree.
disagree. That's it.
Hmm?
You disagree? That's it. That's
No,
it?
I said I agree.
All right. All right.
No, yeah. There's, I said my piece. It's okay. I don't really. I don't want to be toxic on the whole thing because I don't hate it, but at the same time, I'm not like this. This to me was like, okay, they got Etched Sigil baked in,
Mhm.
kind of is my initial reaction. But it depends on what things that we can see them put into it. Are they going to give us some other really cool effects that could potentially go in there? That aren't just like cast my skill for free. Like, let's have some unique things. Well, I mean, maybe they can't because the system is if you put your skill into your enchant slot. So, I don't know, man. They could do some unique things. I think that could be good, though.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And then another thing that we see here, and this is like not a focus of this article at all, but I still get like a little annoyed by like this is Diablo 3. Like left click, right click, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, can we get 8 this time around? Can we change it up in some way so that it doesn't feel like exactly like Diablo 3? Is there anything we can do here?
Let me tell you. Oops, I just made a mess. Let me show you something. PlayStation controller.
There's only
1,
4.
2, 3, 4. Left click, right click. Okay, you got 2 more buttons though.
Yeah, you get mod buttons. Yeah.
You're gonna get focus target and 1 more ability. Potion. Okay.
Couldn't that one more ability be like hold that in the front 4 change to something else though?
I think it should. Yeah, personally, that's what I would do. I would have like left trigger mod your square X triangle circle.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
And Path of Exile, you've got like the 6. I don't actually know 6 at the bottom right, but there's like alt skill mods, so you can have like 12 if you really want it.
Yeah.
And we also know with PoE 2, we're gonna get like a lot of opportunity to wear a lot of skills. So, yeah, I just think that 6 is meh. I would love to see at least 8. But
would you like to see Diablo 4 continue down a thing of like buff the shit out of 1 skill and then have like some other supplementary like movement skills and things like that? Or would you like to have it be like a lot of your skills can do damage? Like Lost Ark, for example. So Lost Ark style is a lot of your skills, like, probably over half of your skills are doing some damage, right? They can kill things. And then you have your big wind-ups to do damage. And then you have something like Diablo 3, for example, where the Gears of Dreadland Demon Hunter, you're literally doing all your damage through Hungering Arrow through 1 skill. You're strafing to shoot it, but
mm-hmm.
Would you rather have the multiple skills do damage or the singular focus, or a perfect world, I guess both combinations?
I mean, if I have to choose between one and the other, obviously Lost Ark wins every argument about combat ever created in the ARPG world. So I would love to utilize all my skills at all times. I don't like in Diablo 3 where, ideally Diablo 3 wants you to play like you've got a generator and you've got a spender, and those are mostly what you're casting all the time. And then you have some like cooldowns on the side, and some of them can be like 2-minute, 3-minute cooldowns. So I really dislike that style. I like to circulate through everything that I have and situate as I need them, not just like, okay, here's a boss, so let me pop Wrath of the Berserker because that's what I'm programmed to do. I just don't like that at all.
I hate holding on the cooldowns for things like that. Like, so let's say they redesign Wrath of the Berserker and it's this big DPS cooldown on like a 5-minute timer or a 3-minute timer.
Make it an ultimate at that point. Like, why even have a 5-minute cooldown?
Like a 5 or 3 or even like anything over 1 minute is ridiculous in my opinion. And then, in all honesty, I think 1 minute is enough to be like, man, I don't even like this ability.
Yeah, I agree.
Like 30 seconds is kind of like cap for me. Like if you can't, you should be able to say, oh, I got a mob coming up to me. I'm going to use this ability because it's my strongest one and just smoke them. And then the next encounter you're in, you should be able to have it back before that encounter is over, So, I'm with you on that. I would like to see them add more things. They're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, left click, right click. We could do more if we actually utilize all 6 abilities, a lot, then maybe that's okay, depending on the style of play though. If we're focusing everything on one ability again, primarily for most builds, then
yeah. That's something that I was actually somewhat pleased with Path of Exile this patch, because Path of Exile is very much that game where you get your 6th link, and that's really what you're juicing up. And maybe you have a totem that you cast sometimes. You've got your auras, but outside of that, you're not doing a whole lot besides like spamming your juiced up skill. And with this recent patch, they've added like some cooldown. They've added some like 8-second cooldown abilities that are really cool, like the firewall going on the ground that you can shoot stuff through, or the black hole that you can cast, and it has utility even without being linked and stuff like that. Like that stuff is really interesting, so that you're spamming more skills, like doing more things per situation. That's so much more exciting than just I've got a really powerful fireball that I spam.
Because I'm going to assume that like the majority of our listeners haven't ever played Lost Ark, and it's crazy because it's so good. But I understand like people don't want to go through the effort to play the game. But so I'm going to describe a little bit why it's so good. And when you're in combat in Lost Ark, you have your 6 abilities or however many it is that you can use. And in every situation, you're analyzing what ability you want to use, because all of them are viable at all times. Like you can deal damage with most of your abilities. It's like, okay, I got guys coming at me. This ability does damage and it groups things up. So I want to group everything up. Now everything's grouped up. I'm going to use my big wind up cooldown. Oh wait, I can't. They're not stunned. I'm going to get effed up. So I'm going to stun them first. Then I'm going to wind up and hurt them. But the whole time you're looking at combat and you're processing like, what action do I want to do?
Yeah.
And in Diablo, it's like, I'm going to press this button because it kills everything. And then I'm going to maybe use my movement ability because I don't want to get killed by this poison on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or this arcane beam's about to touch me. So there's a huge difference. And I think that's why Lost Ark's combat's so fun, is because you're constantly engaged with what you're doing based on like what goal you want to achieve. Do I want to hit them hard and take damage? I want to group them up. Do I need to get safe? Do I need to pop a defensive cooldown because, oh shit, so.
Yeah, I agree. It just flows, and that's why like, I keep seeing Llama make posts about like how he hates cooldowns and they like ruin games. But like I would have, we both talked about this. We would have both been like, yeah, like cooldowns aren't fun. Like it doesn't work. Yeah. But then you play Lost Ark and you're like, oh yeah, well cooldowns can work and they're actually quite good.
They're just shorter in Lost Ark.
Yeah.
I don't think, most of your big boy cooldowns are like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And your smaller ones are like 8 to 10.
Right.
So it's like you don't have 2-3 minute cooldowns though, like Land of the Dead, without crazy cooldown juice. Or Akarat's Champion with, a 2-minute cooldown.
Right.
So,
but then, Mr. Llama is the type of guy that you spam Meteor and then you run out of mana and you spam mana pots and then you go back to town like every 5 minutes. Like he's okay with that. And I don't like, no one would like that in this current year, I feel like. So
yeah,
it's a weird argument. And then finally on this post, kind of like final debate, if you will.
Yeah, dude. I was like, oh,
I know.
Shit.
Like I think everyone, every Diablo streamer I saw like start to read this, like your mouth waters a bit because you're like, oh baby, baby, let's go. But it's really just like they title, if you guys are listening in, they title this section "Endgame Progression System." And you're like, oh my god,
progression.
Here we go. And then it's basically like, next time, smile.
Yeah, they didn't tell us a single thing. Like it wasn't like, could you give us one of your things?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, they did say, the system isn't that. Obviously, the system they want to go with is intended to provide more depth and replayability than Paragon currently offers in D3, and that was probably the most juicy
Yeah, so
piece
they
of information.
understand Paragon sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then they, repeat their mantra of easy to learn, difficult to master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah,
Didn't they
that's
say somewhere in here about the talent system not being like that's the easy part to get or something? Or maybe that was me in my head thinking that. I thought they said something. Maybe not. Maybe I was just doing that in my head. Yeah, here it is. We're excited to read through regarding. Oh no. I lied.
Cool.
So, I got debated by this one pretty hard because
Yeah.
I thought they were going to give us at least a system. Like we know about dungeons. That's the only one we know about. And I'm like, oh, cool. They're going to talk about something else besides dungeons, right?
Yep.
Nope.
And you're like, okay, I'm reading in. I'm so excited. And then you keep scrolling down and you see it's like ends. And you're like, wait, what? What the hell?
That's the juice, man. That's like the ultimate carrot, right? They just held the ultimate carrot out in front of me, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And then they didn't give it to us. So
yeah. But yeah, so
yeah.
I said next quarterly updates, we're gonna take a deeper dive into some itemization changes we have coming. Basically,
they even said that end game is not going to come in the next one, so they're like end game in a year.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it in a year.
All right,
so
yeah. Still no mention of PvP.
Overall opinion on this out of 1 to 10, what would you give this?
I would give this like it's a solid post. Like I'm always glad to see what they're thinking. This goes back to like itemization updates. I think that these are the juicy updates that we want to hear from. Obviously, this continues to follow that trend of like, man, I'm so scared that this game's going to be just insanely shallow. So it's hard to really rate like from a like Diablo 4 being the ultimate game. This is like, a 4, but like from a information perspective and knowing what route this game's going to take and satisfaction of a update, I'm like a 7.
Yeah. I think overall this gave me a we're taking a step in the right direction versus some of the other things I thought they were doing. So that helps. I think the end game progression debate was like there for filler. I don't understand it honestly, because it was like, why did you put that on there and then not tell us anything? Like, why did you even bring it up then? Like we're going to talk about it and not the next blog update, but maybe one after that. It's like, well, of course you are, eventually. So I don't know. That kind of made me angry a little bit because I was like, yes, wait, no. The enchantment, like, yeah, all in all, I would say this is, unfortunately, this is like a 6 for me. I feel like it's a step in the right direction, but when you really break down the skill tree, it's not what it appears to be. It's more just like your talent, your skill book, and then the enchantment system is like etched sigils baked into a class. This was like a kind of a class preview for sorcerer a little bit, or sorceress. That's okay. Like that's not bad. And it also showed me that spear throwers are back in the game. If you didn't catch the animated GIF that they had the meteor crashing down on, we have the spear throwers yet again sniping you no matter where you're at on the screen. I mean, it looks like they're locked in and they can't miss. So
it's hard to tell because she doesn't move.
She doesn't move, but I'm just telling you can tell by the animation. It looks like they're locked in. They're dead. They're bullseye.
They better not pivot, man. That's all I have to say.
No, dude,
listen,
100%.
Blizzard.
They're pivoting.
Spear throwers could not pivot after they do their initial throw animation. You cannot let them do that because that is so stupid. If they pivot, I'm like skeptical of like, did they copy paste some Diablo 3 code? Because that's just like stupid. It's just straight stupid.
Yeah,
it's one of the most infuriating things in Diablo 3 is spear throwers and their ability to pivot after they've already thrown.
And listen, like look at this. Okay, so let's think about the one in the bottom animation and the top right. He pulls spears out of his backpack, right? He's got spears on his backpack. Does that number of spears actually decrease as he throws them, or is he infinite spears as well? Like
it looks like it got less.
It does look like it got less. Right.
That'd be cool.
It's like, can he at least run out of spears and then have to come if he's gonna snipe me and can't miss, then at least let him run out of spears and have to chase me down after a little bit.
What cool attention to detail if it actually made them run out of spears.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. So, The one on the bottom, I was kind of trying to watch him.
Yeah,
too,
he definitely loses a spear, like without
yeah.
question.
Yeah, so maybe they get 3 spears and then they have to like try to punch you. So
It's cool.
I don't know. Yeah, that's it's interesting. I'm definitely feeling more positive after this than I was before it, but it's ultimately just not what I wanted. You know what I mean? So I wanted a little more from the skill tree, unfortunately. So,
Yeah, I think that's
and
safe.
like, why are you doing that to me, man?
Yeah,
Stop it. So we had more news though. We had
yeah, literally all the news after weeks of nothing. We just get everything in one podcast. So buckle up, team, because now we're getting into the D3 PTR.
the PTR. Yeah. So they dropped PTR news on a Friday.
Last Friday, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is cool.
It starts 2 days, Thursday, October 1st.
Yeah, 2 days from now, October the 1st. So let's bust into that bad boy.
We're gonna. So, the top is, the same stuff. In bold here at the top, to make it a little different, they say class changes to ensure the most significant class changes receive an ample amount of attention. We'd love for you to focus your testing on wizard changes around Etched Sigil and Hydra's, Crusader's Steed Charge build, and Witch Doctor's Crazy Chicken build. So I immediately read that and I'm like, oh no. If they want us to focus on those, I'm not looking forward to what's coming from the Necro.
Yeah.
And obviously other classes. So that was a red flag, but still very excited. We continue to read, and we get into, right out of the gate, the seasonal theme.
Yeah.
So without diving too deep, what are your initial thoughts? Seasonal theme.
Yeah, so the seasonal theme, if you guys somehow haven't read this before you're listening to the podcast, is anytime you click on a pylon, you're going to spawn a shadow clone of your character, and then that shadow clone is going to fight alongside of you for the next minute or until you die. If you die before the minute's up, it disappears. The shadow clone will have one of 3 different variations.
Did they actually say it would die if you died?
Yeah, it actually is in there.
Is it?
It's
Okay.
the whole thing. If you get one of 3 different choices, so or variant builds that your shadow clone can be. It doesn't mimic what you have on. There's predetermined layouts for these things.
Yeah, 3
of them. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I read this, I thought, that's interesting. That's not something I expected them to do, because we've been talking about seasonal themes a lot, especially in my streams and stuff. Like, what would be cool? What would be cool? What could we do? And this is something like out of left field. I'm like, where did that come from? That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
To me personally, I think it's a really ingenious idea. Then I started looking at the build variants for these things, and I'm going, oh my god, like these things are RNG on RNG. So we can just jump to Necro really fast.
Okay.
On it, and I have it pulled up. Let me find Necro on this list. So Necro, in variation 1, he gets Land of the Dead Frozen Lands, which is going to CC everything on the screen.
Yeah.
Instantly, I thought, oh man, that's not good. Like, there's a lot of classes where that would screw you over, or you wouldn't want that. And then on the second skill it gets is Frailty. And I'm like, that's OP as shit. You're getting 15% death on everything on the screen, or anything it's close to, I guess. I'm like, that's cool. And then you go through and you read its other skills, and then you look at variation number 2. Number 2 has Plague Lands, not Frozen Lands. And I don't even honestly know what Plague Lands does. I don't think I've ever used the rune. So, and then I sit here and I look, and it's like, oh, it's got Decrepify. It doesn't have Frailty. I'm like, well, that sucks. If you get build variation number 2, you're missing 15% damage on enemies to kill them. Like, that's horrible. And then I go to build number 3, and we like, oh, we're back to Frozen Lands, and then we're back to Frailty. So I see RNG playing a huge factor in these things if they significantly dish out any damage. If they don't dish out damage, then all it's really going to do is be like, well, did I get Frailty Aura or not? And is Frozen Lands fucking me over in my build? You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's just for Necro. Like, every class is like this, though. You can
you're supposed to focus on a different class, by the way. Okay. I got Necro. I got it.
Okay, we'll go to Witch Doctor then. So Witch Doctor.
You know Witch Doctor.
No, I mean, you could sit here and look at it
Okay.
though. Witch Doctor's got Pra NATO, which is a hard CC, which is gonna suck. It's got what was the other one? It's got Hex with Jinx. I mean, you've got 2 CCs DRing right there on it. And then it's just so it's the same thing, man. You just go through and you look at these things. And I'm not gonna sit here and go through all the builds, but you can see where this kind of could cause problems. But I will say that, so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we got to handle the CC, and a lot of people have thought about that.
Yeah,
the CC issue. That's fine. I'm not even worried about the CC issue because so many people are going to complain about that. They're going to take it out. Like these things are going to lose all their CC, guaranteed. I just don't see how it stays in. So assuming they take the CC out, then you're looking at damage. So like which specs are going to deal out the most damage? Are they going to be balanced? How's the damage going to scale based on your character's damage sheet, etc.? And then it's just going to be RNG. But I do think it's a cool idea, man. I actually am not hating on this seasonal theme. I think it sounds like a pretty good idea. And then also it's RNG. Are you going to get the pylons on the rift level in the times you need it, at the spots you need it?
and maybe the build you need.
Yeah, so it's RNG to get the pylon, it's RNG to get the variant you need, and then it's RNG that this pet thing that's running around actually hits the shit you want it to hit. So there's like RNG on RNG, but I think it's a cool idea. So we'll see how it plays.
I do think it's a cool idea as well. Obviously the CC thing popped up in my head because, I have so many seasons of playing Cold Lancer. I'd have to take everything off the follower that could possibly DR, and that was a big headache. So if this guy's triggering DR and I can't control him at all, that's a big problem, obviously. One of the things I thought about immediately on a Necro is, okay, well, every build variation gets landed dead, but you don't share corpses. So does that do me any good whatsoever? He's literally just going to CC stuff, and that benefits me zero. So that was immediately what jumped into my head. Obviously, frailty being given is, I think, significantly better than what any classic project could get from a follower.
Yeah. Chat's asking real quick what DR stands for. DR stands for diminishing returns. Yeah. So diminishing returns means the more that something is frozen or stuck, eventually it'll become immune to it, so you can't perma-stun enemies and just walk through rifts. So.
Yeah, it's like cooldown reduction as well. If you stack 100% cooldown reduction, you don't actually have 100% cooldown reduction. You get diminishing returns on how much you can get. But yeah, so yeah, I agree with your sentiment. Like this is a cool, unique theme that I think, like you said, came out of left field. It's awesome that they're even able to do something like this.
Yeah,
without 100%. Having to make a ton of new assets and
The amount of effort that went into like making all these build variations, like they made 3 build variations for every class, and then they had to figure out how the pet's going to control that. I would assume there has to be some kind of like built-in AI to make this pet use the abilities. I don't know. Like so to me, it's like, man, they put some effort into this, and I can appreciate it, especially because it came out of nowhere. So
yeah. And now, arguably the most interesting part of this to me is
we're getting so little too.
I know. I missed it the first time.
I did too. I totally skipped it.
Basically, we're getting a 4th cube slot, and the fact that they mention it so nonchalantly to me is it means one of two things. I'm curious what you think. It means either this might go into the game like forever, or they're literally just giving us the Kanai's cube 4th slot so that everyone can cube Flavor of Time.
I don't know, man. Are you going to cube Flavor? I don't know what Necro won't. Necro's going to cube a weapon, man.
Well, yeah, but like, I mean, if this thing's like insanely powerful, you'd still cube a Flavor.
No, because your follower has a 1-minute timer. Do you think Flavor is going to double duration?
Yeah, double duration of shrine effects.
Ooh. I didn't think about that. Yeah. There's no way it'll double the seasonal theme.
That's why I question mark this, like, because they're so nonchalant about it.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I doubt it, but if they did, then maybe.
And to me, like, I would almost, if their whole intent of this is just give everyone Flavor of Time, just give everyone Flavor of Time. Like, don't unlock a 4th cube slot. So that's why I think the 4th cube slots could be like, because they have to do new art for this.
Yeah, here's Here's what I think they did this. I think that this covers two bases. You have your seasonal themes that are environmental, like the circles on the ground or the rainbow penis, like we have this season, and like all these things, right? And so you have all these environmental seasonal themes, and then you have the Kanai Cube seasonal theme, the Royal Ring seasonal theme, like the passive ability based ones. And I think that they're trying to cover both bases of players in one seasonal theme. I think they gave you the cube because regardless, whatever your favorite build is, this Kanai cube thing affects that. You get to make your favorite build in the game better. Regardless, I don't care what you like, it's now better than it was last season. And so to me, that's kind of cool. I think the Kanai cube, honestly, is probably better than the shadow clones. I think the shadow clones is a cooler idea, and it's way more effort than just like, oh, we'll just give you an extra cube slot. Oh, whoop-de-doo. But the cube slot is so impactful to the whole game, though.
Yes.
It's like, no matter what you play, boom. Okay, now
Right.
you have options. What do you want to do? You know?
Agreed. But the only thing, I'm like, oh, this is really strong is that, we keep talking week after week after week of, things are getting a lot of control. The power creep, right? Like solo 150s, no problem. So you give us another fourth slot, you're throwing, and then if this goes to the game permanently, like that whole system you kept talking about of, oh, we want people to do like, GR 130 at 4K Paragon. That's out.
It's already out. It's been like, listen, they need to stat squish so bad. Like, I can't even.
We're never gonna do it.
Man, they need it so bad. They need to reset us to like level 60 GR. I keep going down. At first, I was like, they need to take us back to 100. Like, no, you know what? They need to take us. They need to take us down to like 60. Yep. 50, 30. So, but I say that, and I'm really not joking though. Like, people are like, oh no, he's just kidding. No, I'm serious.
Yeah,
like they really need to choose us down to 60. And I can sit here and make arguments for it all day. But a couple quickies are the servers can't handle the damage numbers right now. Anyways, you get so much latency at 130 plus, it's insane. Especially if you start throwing in like God DHs or like the new Crusader set. It just breaks the server. It cripples the server.
Right.
Now we're gonna get into this in a second. This energy twister build, I don't know how that's not going to break the server, but we'll talk about that.
EP,
a little bit.
Hello, yeah.
It's done. You know what I mean? So if you bring us back down to the like GR60, maybe the servers could handle that math a little bit better and not cripple them. And then two, people are going to bitch about the damage numbers and stuff, but it gives you headroom. Like, nobody's doing a 150 if like level 60 is now the push. So those guys that get those crazy high clears, that's awesome, man. They have carrots to chase again. And the people that don't do that anyways, but watch these guys do it, the carrot's still there. Like, for some reason, when somebody hits the highest level, people cap out and they tap out and don't play anymore. And you're not even the one doing it, but it's still, they're like, well, I'm done. He beat the game.
Right.
So anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, so again, just the weird energy around not making this like the forefront of this patch is so weird to me. And again, when I first read it, I didn't even see it. In fact, when I retweeted Diablo, I was like, oh, Necrobracers. Like, I'm a little disappointed.
That could just be like miscommunication with the community management team and the dev team too.
Sure.
Like the dev team was like, yo, we got this shadow thing and it's really, really cool. And we're gonna do that. And then so like their energy was on that because the Kanai cube to them is like, and we added an extra Kanai slot. You know what I mean? So I could see that kind of maybe playing a factor. But this should have been its own highlight. This should have had like that items tab right below where it's big, heading of items. That should have been like Kanai cube.
Right.
So
and then we get confirmation that, as we've been saying, this Hadrig's gift for next season will be the new set for every class. So that'll be interesting because some of them are really performing quite well.
They're all okay. Minus the wizard, but they're all okay.
This is really nice. The stone gauntlets now drop for all classes. For me personally on a necro, that was a big pain in the butt. And Paragon bonus, gold find has changed to gold pickup radius at 0.1 per point.
This kind of came out of left field too.
It did too.
Like, they haven't changed Paragon ever, Have they? Since it was implemented, I don't think it's changed.
I have no idea. I literally
I don't
couldn't
think
tell you.
so. And so to me, this kind of opens up a whole new can of worms. It's like, oh crap, we can actually talk about Paragon changes now. Is this a thing that we're opening up where we can make suggestions to change Paragon? I heard Bloodshed make a comment on this, and I kind of agree with him. Bloodshed was like, why don't they just add pickup radius to the other one if that's possible? Like, why take off the gold find and just add the pickup radius also?
I thought I
Gold
remembered
find and pickup
something
radius?
forever ago about
No.
how gold find like doesn't actually work anymore or something. Maybe I'm thinking of Pee-wee. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it does because you still use gold find sets.
Maybe it was Magic Find. I think it was Magic
Yeah,
Find.
I think it was Magic
I
Find.
agree
Yeah.
with that.
So, and I agree with that sentiment. I think it would be cool if you could just have it do both. But yeah, that's cool to me. I
I'd
mean, at least
so
this
much
makes your
rather
Paragon
have
points
pickup
useful.
radius. than
Yeah, me
gold
too.
find.
I would too. If somebody was like, make a choice, I would, of course, pickup radius for sure.
100%.
And it's not even going to be much. It's 5% or 5 yards. But sorry, 5 yards, right? Something. I don't know. It's not a lot, but it's still something.
Yeah. Makes purple globes less annoying to pick up if you have no radius.
Exactly. So.
But yeah, getting on to the item changes, kind of the, for me, this is the stuff that I get excited for the most, probably. So first and foremost, we have the Necro. They're getting bracers for the first time in Necro history. We're actually getting bracers.
They actually have something to put them on. I didn't think they had forearms because they never have worn bracers. Ever.
Listen, I'm curious what you think about this. I'm going to let you speak to this before I do, because I obviously have a whole bunch to say about this. So basically, Bone Spear cast from Simulacrum deal 405% increased damage from bracers. What do you think?
Okay, so my initial thoughts were, cool. I haven't played the Necro set since PTR because I didn't like the playstyle. I thought it was Resident Sleeper. But I will say that it seems like people have said that the problem with the new set is that Simulacrum, or that there's not enough damage there. So this is going to give them increased damage. So in my opinion, this is a good thing to the game. It gives damage where damage is needed. Is this potentially going to give your Simulacrums other abilities and other ways to play it besides the set, like Legacy of Dreams is what popped into my head. Like, is this going to be super OP for Legacy builds? But I don't know the numbers on how much they needed to make it feel good. It to me, this seems like it was designed for the new set. And then instantly my mind went up. Legacy of Nightmares or Legacy of Dreams is going to juice this out of the world. But
yeah, so this goes back to when we were talking about Diablo 4. I hate this. So adding more damage to an item is maybe the least interesting thing you could do in this game. I'm all for like changing functionality and adding to an item, and then like you're not forced into that change, but literally just adding a damage mod to an item, like you have to run it. And I really hate that.
To run this now with the new set.
Yeah.
What choices did you have before?
Nemesis. And this is why I also hate, because I love Nemesis bracers. Nemesis bracers might be like top 3 favorite item in Diablo 3. And so now we have to drop Nems for, more damage people wide. And it's just, I really dislike this. Like, why not just add more damage to the set? It just doesn't really make, you're not adding any kind of build variety or excitement by adding bracers that give more damage.
Here's something that I kind of think about a lot too, is it seems like historically over the last 50 billion patches, they never really give you toughness increases. It's always damage increases. And like, there's something to be said for toughness increases too. I feel like the game is scaled to this weird point where you get one shot so often by so many things. And it's like, if you gave us a little bit more toughness, but didn't really give us the damage, we could still get higher rift clears because we're not going to die to one-shot mechanics 24/7. So I don't know. I mean, this is kind of derailing a little bit, but it's in line with your Simulacrum thing. It's like we don't have any toughness. What if they could have added another effect to the Simulacrums that would, help you in a different way?
Yeah.
And just raw damage. you know.
And I hope that's not their intent. Like what they're giving us the additional cube slot. I hope that their intent is like, well, we understand that maybe classes will get squishier as you continue to climb, so let's give them another cube slot so they can get more mitigation. Literally, no one will ever get more mitigation.
You'll just pick damage every time.
You'll pick damage 100% of the time in Diablo 3. And then
You'll
can't really be like, well, that's their own
fish.
fault for picking that. It doesn't really apply. Like,
Well,
everyone's
because
going to go down.
it's just the fish too. Like if you get the perfect rift layout with the perfect pylons and the perfect mob types, your survivability goes way up versus, your average. Okay, so out of all the monster types, 80% of them will want like here, example. I was today I made a wizard in 2 hours. I was on leaderboards with wizard this season. Like it's ridiculously nobody's playing them. And so I'm doing these runs, and then I tried one run, and I got tongue lashers, and it's like instantly game over. Like as soon as I came out of Archon, I was dead. I'm like, okay, well, this rift is done. So like balancing the toughness out and not just juicing damage the whole time would make some of the fishing go down just a little. I mean, it's still there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm with you though, man. Like, so here's they wanted simulacrums to have damage, and they wanted to give bracers to Necro, because Necro doesn't really have those class specific, like, hey, these are awesome.
Literally none. Yeah.
Bracers. Yeah. So they're like, okay, so I think they're trying to get two birds with one stone. Was this the right play? Or could have done something better? Maybe. I don't know if they have, obviously they can add new items to the game, but can they create new skills out of the blue? I mean, I guess they did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think, have they actually added new skills into the game in the last couple of years, like a brand new skill that's never been around?
Not unless it's like part of a set or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if they've added a brand new skill, because they've redesigned some things. Like they added the Fisher animations and stuff to make it look cool, but that was already in the game beforehand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. All right. Anyways,
but that's
Ivory
it for
Tower.
the Necro. So that's I'm a little disappointed by that, because I don't need to tell you guys, but Necro sets are extremely underwhelming. The new set is like, this will be strong. There's no denying that, and so maybe their intent is like, okay, you get the Hadric's Gift, it's the new set, and you're gonna get this, and it does perform really well as a starter set as well. So maybe this will really carry it to the next level, and their intent is for you to play that. But yeah, there's that lawn aspect too. Is maybe this would be good with lawn. So, anyways, Ivory Tower, rapid multiple blocks will now scale the damage of Fires of Heaven up to a maximum of 2.5 times damage.
So I know what you're thinking when you read this, because I thought the exact same thing. They buffed Ivory Tower? Why? Why would they buff Ivory Tower? But it's not actually a buff. So SVR told me that this is actually like there is mechanically something buggy with Ivory Tower, and this kind of just addresses that bug. So this is really a moot point. It really won't affect people that much. So it'll fix it from like being able to scale infinitely or something.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, so it doesn't make any sense. There was no clarification here, and I don't know. I don't know if the clarification is supposed to be public or not. Like, but I'm just like, I know exactly how it worked and how it didn't work. I just don't. It's basically it's like fixing a bug. So
right, but on paper it reads like, oh, a buff.
Yeah, but it's not really. Right. It's just fixing a bug. So that should have probably. Yeah, I don't know how to. They should have clarified that differently, I feel like. But.
And the next one we actually both of us have been hoping for a while, as they removed the 1 second kind of wind up time for Mantle of Channeling, which is great.
Yay!
Obviously that was added because DMO or Starpack Wiz was insane. Not DMO, but Starpack
Wiz was doing dumb things, and they wanted to fix it, and it didn't even get rid of it in the first place. So I'm glad this is reverted, and the reason they reverted this is, if you go down to the next item, you can kind of see where they're going with this.
So Etched Sigil, while channeling Arcane Torrent, Disintegrate Red Frost, damage of Energy Twister is increased by 200 to 50%, and you also cast Energy Twister every second. And why that's important is because we also go on to Valthek's Rebuke. Energy Twister now travels in a straight path and deals 300 to 400% increased damage.
Yeah. So if you don't remember what Etched Sigil did before, it while you channeled, it would cast one of your spenders for you. So what you would do is you would just stack the spender that you wanted it to spend, and like AKA meteor or something stupid, and it would just sit there and spend it for you. So they changed it and made it energy twister only, and they made it energy twister damage instead of all damage you dealt, and other things. So they basically reworked at Sigil from this universal best item ever for wizard to energy twister item for wizard. So
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I really disliked Twister Wizard when that was the meta. I mean, hopefully the straight path business, like being a damage mod, you have to run it, makes it like less toxic and it's not as RNG.
yeah.
But I guess, you know,
we've get the twisters stuck on corners and things. It was so bad.
We've got some fairly hardcore console players in our chat. And I guess, you know, like Energy Twister Wizard never really went anywhere on console for some reason. Like it stayed really strong. And so this has, I think, a lot more implications for the console than it does for us PC boys. But that's kind of crazy to me too.
So, I think Energy Twister is going to be a thing for sure now. I mean, the 2 damage mods alone, you're getting 250 and 400%.
Yeah, plus the DMO buff.
Plus the DMO buff, right? Yeah. So, I mean, Energy Twister is going to be nasty. It's going to do some sick damage, I feel like. You know, we'll see. We'll see once we play it, but I feel like it's going to do some really sick damage.
Yeah.
I think it's going to break the servers, though, because the Energy Twister is all area damage. And so how that's going to play, what do you just, in 4-mans, you're going to group up a shit ton of trash and then have an Energy Twister Wizard just fire into the middle of it with all that area damage? It's probably going to cripple the server. You know, I don't know what'll end up being the go-to play here. But but assuming the servers can actually handle the Energy Twisters, this could be cool for those people that like it. I played Energy Twister back, like you said, back when it was the thing, and you try to get them stuck on corners of the walls, and positioning was so annoying, and the twisters would sometimes just go random places. So I think that straight path tries to fix that a little bit. Then adding the damage mod to it makes it a requirement to use it in the cube for the most part. So we'll see if it's fun. I don't know. It doesn't sound that fun of a build to me, but playing it in practice could be more fun than it looks on paper.
Mm-hmm. Then moving on to Fragment of Destiny. Your signature spells attack 50% faster and deal triple damage. You gain a spectral buff whenever you land an attack with a signature spell. Hydras deal 25 to 30% increased damage for each spectral stack, max 10 stacks. So another damage mod for Hydras. It's not tied to a set.
Which is going to just affect Lon, because that's already the best anyways. So,
and then moving on, and Winter Flurry, enemies killed by cold damage have a 25% chance to release a Frost Nova. Your Hydras deal 125 to 150 increased damage to enemies in a blizzard.
Which I thought this was worded wrong the first time I read it, I swear. I'm like, do they mean enemies Nova'd? But they don't, I guess. They don't. That your Hydras are going to Nova.
Because they don't want you to run Nova, I think. They just want you to get the Nova.
And then you're going to cast the Blizzard on them, pull your Hydras out, and then Blizzard them to death while your Hydras do more damage.
Mm-hmm.
This is cool. I mean, they're giving Hydra some flavor, but this doesn't fix the set. This just buffs Lon.
Yeah.
We'll see if the Hydra set gets juiced up later on down the.
And on paper, this is a big buff. So let's see how that works out.
Yeah.
And then this one was interesting. Wizard Spike. Performing an attack has a 25% chance to hurl a frozen orb. Arcane orb deals 300 to 350% increased damage. Yeah.
So Wizard Spike, if you're not familiar with it, is our frozen orb is a rune for arcane orb. So arcane orb is the base skill. So frozen orb got juiced up 350%, and then when you do an attack, you're gonna 25% chance to throw that frozen orb out anyways. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Nemo's back, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
at the very least, been kind of good. So
it's it's been okay-ish. I always really like Frozen Orb as a speed build. So hopefully this will bring it up to like an interesting level.
Here's the problem I have with Demo Frozen Orb. So I've never really been a Demo huge fan. Like I've played it in the past, season 10 or 11. It was pretty decent actually, and people didn't play it that season. They played Tal Meteor that season really hard. I think it was maybe 11. But They played Tal Meteor really hard whenever that season happened, and Demo was with Frozen Orb was good that season, and it's a really good T16 build, super fast T16 build back then. I don't know how nothing compares now to like the stupidity we have, but it's the toughness isn't there for that set. I don't think they've buffed the toughness for that set in many seasons. You are going to be so glass cannon running Frozen Orb that I really feel like you're going to have to walk the entire rift down, because if enemies get behind you and surround you, you're going to be in a world of trouble.
So basically like playing a Necro. I'm for it. I'm ready.
I think it's going to be worse, man.
I think no way it's worse.
If you get looked at, you might as well just fall over dead, So we'll see. Yeah. I think that this Demo Frozen Orb build needs a little toughness thrown in somehow, some way. But I haven't played it a whole bunch, so there's some nice community guys that love playing this build, so they can chime in on that.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it for Wizard. Typhon's Veil got buffed. I don't.
The Delcier's got the buff.
Yeah, the buff.
Basically all the sets got buffed.
Well, so if you're one of these classes, yeah.
Yeah, right now not all the sets. You're right, true. The big one here that jumps out to me too is the next one, the Norvald's Fervor.
Yeah, 400%.
That's gonna be big for Crusader.
I think it'll be it'll be interesting for speed builds, and it's only interesting because we're getting the 4th cube. If we weren't, then it wouldn't be.
Yeah, this could be like permanent pony, and just run and things die to your pony. Like that could be interesting. But the thing is even if you're running around with max speed pony, you're still not killing shit as fast as the Gears of Dreadlands DH. Like that set. I've been talking about this since week 2 of the season. That T16 set is so fast, it's so broken, and it's so easy to play and so effortless. It's too bad. Like the other classes can't compete with that. So it's like, oh, do you have a T16 build for Wizard? Yeah, it's called Gears of Dreadlands. Do you have a T16 build for Barb? Yep, it's called Gears of Dreadlands. Like you literally just roll another character to do your T16s because it's so much faster. So like Wave of Light's pretty quick and maybe it could keep up, but I don't know, man. Like that set creates a problem because now you have to juice every other class's T16 setup to equivalent speeds, and it's just so ludicrous already. It's so fast already that I think you need to slow it down. So you need to nerf it. And I know people are going to get pissed when I say nerf it, but I really do think you need to nerf Gears of Dreadlands.
Or just nerf its ability to farm T16 so efficiently, maybe.
I mean, it's crazy fast.
Let's see. But yeah, so Armor of Khan got buffed from 1500 to 2000%. This is interesting to me, yeah, because it's not huge, and they say you to double your damage is like 4 GRs. So I don't know what build they're looking at where they're afraid to buff it more.
I think this has to play with bombardment. So we'll get into that with the Belt of the Trove and the other things later on.
But that would be Lawn Bomb. Like, why would people wear a con?
I think you can Akan Bomb too, and I honestly feel like that's it. I
but
feel like
Akan Bomb is double, or Lawn Bomb's double that.
Yeah, I honestly feel like that's why they were scared to juice it up more, because condemns the other set you use Akans with, and condemn is not in a spot that's even close to the new set. So
maybe it's the combo, the Thorns set plus
the Thorn set plus the Akan set, and then you have all those damage. Dude, you're gonna get, so we'll just
that wouldn't work still. Yeah.
Since we're talking about it, because you're gonna Belt of the Trove is 500%. And then you're going to have the Mortal Drama is another 500%. So you're going to get 1,000% to belt to your bombardments right there. And then you're going to double dip with the Akan's 2,000 or 2,000%. And then you're going to get Akan's damage is just base 2,000. That's going to go onto the bombardment.
That's 6-piece. You would have 6-piece Thorns and 4-piece Akan. So you wouldn't even get the 6-piece.
You're talking about from the pony set? No, I'm just talking about Akans. No, you can't. Yeah, you can't get the Invoker and Akans at the same time.
Right.
That's
impossible. So, like, why would you? bomb. Unless like this is straight up not to be a thorn bomb, it's just a bomb.
No, it's
bomb?
not I think it's just a bomb. I think it's just bombs,
Interesting.
dude.
Well,
I think
maybe
you're just bombing.
that's their T16 solution then. It's literally just like running around with bombs. Bombardment.
Could be.
Yeah.
You only cast every 4 seconds though, so maybe you just elite snipe. You like run to an elite and stand on them and wait till the bomb goes off. And then it's got to fall from the sky like a meteor.
I mean, you can manually cast the bomb as well. You don't have to just sit there.
Yeah, if it's on your bar. Yeah. True. Well, it's got a 60-second cooldown. It's got a hella long cooldown.
Who knows?
Again, back to the long. Yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see how this ends up playing out. But I really feel like they were scared to buff a con more because of the bombardment. And maybe I'm totally wrong with that, but we'll see.
Roland's got a 4,500% increase. There's just the sweep attack. I don't know how impactful that is. Obviously, the shield bash is just never going to be a thing, apparently. But yeah, it could be significant. We'll see. That scales pretty well. Secret of the Lights also 3,000% increase. I don't see that really going that much further.
No, that's not doing a lot of juice.
Yeah. And then we get into Witch Doctor. The Angry Chicken Explosion and damage is increased, so that's obviously good for speed builds.
Yeah, it went up a lot, 1,600%. So you should be chicken bombing the smokes out of some elites at T16. You know,
Helltooth Harness and Spirit of Racker basically got just short of double damage.
No toughness still,
and they still haven't like distinguished them. Like that's so annoying to me. The Helltooth and the Racker both have fire bats on them.
Helltooth was the original fire bats set, I believe, from a couple seasons ago. That's what people were using. And like, so I played that Helltooth fire bats and I got leaderboards on it a couple times and not even playing it that much, but that was the worst experience ever. Like you were so damn squishy in that build. Like you're sitting there just like butt puckering the whole time because you're so squishy. And it's like, okay, man, you guys juiced up the damage again, but like there's no toughness on any of these sets. And it's like, I don't think you have to go quite as high with the damage numbers. Just give them some toughness and let them not instantly get killed. And I think that'll get you some higher clears.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just me. I don't know.
The most exciting part for me is the Scrimshaw buff. So it reduces the mana cost of Zombie Charger by 75%, increases the damage by 6 to 7 times.
Okay. I don't get zombie bears, man. People love some zombie bears.
Zombie bears is shit.
Listen, no, how? And I get in and like I get everybody loves it. That's fine. You guys can love it. I logged in and I'm like, what am I missing? And I pick zombie bears and I start casting it.
Have you seen a skill that looks like that? Like Zombie Charger is arguably one of the coolest looking skills in the game, and it's never utilized.
Zombie bears start behind your character by like a couple yards, and then they run forward a little bit, and then they fade away. And it's like, okay, so it doesn't matter where your mouse placement is; they always start a couple yards behind your character and go through. So it's a slow ass animation. It's not going to be fast. It does look cool, but like make it cast where your mouse cursor is. Or wherever, and then why does it need to start behind your character so far? Like start in front of your character. Like actually get to the targets quickly. It's just bad.
I like it.
But people love this. People literally love this. This is the biggest hype I've seen out of most of the notes. So
and then we move on to Monk, and Inna's got a buff. I guess that means what were people playing Wave of Light with? Is it Inna's right now, or is it?
I think it's like Lon, actually.
Or is that LOD?
I think it's LOD.
maybe now they're going back to Inna's Wave of Light.
You can play Wave of Light with Sun Wukong, you can play Wave of Light with Inna's, and you can play it with Legacy of Dreams. So you can do it with all three.
Monk main.
Yeah. So Sun Wukong is better for 16s over Inna's, in my opinion, and I think Inna's is better for pushing. But they both kind of.
The Shenlong is interesting because again of the 4th cube slot. That has some really interesting implications. It can go back to being used with the Paj.
I haven't played a Gen Monk in so long. I don't even remember it that well. The only thing I remember is the Shenlongs. When you capped your spirit out, it would give you the damage bonus as long as you can maintain your spirit, and your spirit starts to drain. And when your spirit drains out to empty, then the damage bonus goes away until you get full spirit again.
Yep.
And so this doesn't seem like a crazy huge buff. It's 150%, but I guess that's a lot. We'll have to see
it's
how
a
it
lot
plays
because of the force cube slot.
Okay, so what are you putting in there again? Like what's giving you like all the juice? I don't see the juice in this, but I don't play Gen Monk, so I don't really know why this is so juicy. But people are saying this is pretty juicy
because it's a separate damage multiplier.
Yeah, it's a whole nother mod or a whole nother multiplier. Yeah.
Gungdo gear, baby. Exploding palms on death. Explosion applies exploding palm, and the damage is increased by 75 to 100%.
Mm-hmm.
The small buff, yeah.
I was so expecting exploding palms return this season.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about it before these notes came out, and I'm like, if I'm betting money on what's getting juiced this season, exploding palm. Like I was convinced exploding palm was going to be a thing, and this I don't think this does it. This doesn't bring it back. So
yeah, but
which is sad because I think it's such a cool thing, man.
I think that they got to be afraid to buff this because this might be the most possible lag that you can get in like a group setting.
Yeah, dude, it's like killing a blue goblin every time. it's fantastic. It feels so good. Could you imagine doing like 4-man metas and you have a big group of trash and then all of a sudden that exploding palm buff goes off? And this is like exploding palm is what Star Pact Wizard was supposed to be. Like this is what exploding palm was always meant to be. It was meant to be, we got the biggest group of trash we could ever get assembled. And then as soon as that one bomb goes off, it's a chain reaction and they all go off. And like that's what it's supposed to do, man.
Yeah.
So I want to see that return in a big way. And I don't even care if you blue goblin lag the server out every time you do it. It's worth it. So.
Yeah, I guess. Sure. As long as it's not the meta and you're like forced into the lag, I guess.
Yeah.
And then finally, like I guess something in there for Barbs to play with. I tried to get him to take it out because I'm just doing everything I can to nerf
you
Barbs.
hate Barbs so much.
Yeah. But Blade of Tribes, threatening shout or war cries and threatening shout cause an avalanche and earthquake, and they both get 150 to 200% increased damage. I like
the only
this.
thing they added was the damage mod, right? I think the other things are still there.
Yeah, I think it's the damage mod. I'm not sure this was like cubable power before. I could be wrong.
I don't know.
So
I don't like Leapquake. I'm not a Leapquake fan.
Listen.
It's a really cool thing, but it gets so old to play it after a little bit. Like I can only take it for so long.
Volcano Barb.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
You want it back?
It's happening with this for sure.
It's down. It's done. Done deal.
Yeah, man. It is a fun build. Yeah.
Yeah, Leapquake's cool for a little while. If you've never played it, it is fun for a day or two, but then eventually you just get tired of fighting the leap mechanic because it never goes exactly where you want it to, and eventually you just like, oh fuck, why am I fighting this thing?
That's why Volcano Barb was made. No leap.
No leap required.
Mm-mm.
Do it.
But yeah, and then it's the same old.
How to do it?
Copy your character, blah blah blah. So Thursday, I wonder what time it'll be.
I would guess afternoon. It's historically been early afternoon.
Hopefully. What's interesting though is I found this. So this is a kind of a spreadsheet of seasonal information.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we get a like kind of an average window of the PTR lead time until the next season.
Okay.
So statistically, the past 4 seasons, it's been in the ballpark of 29 to 36 days.
From PTR?
From PTR. So if we go and look at, it's this Thursday.
I can already tell you exactly when they should do it.
Can you?
Yeah.
What's that?
November the 6th.
Is that a different? Why that day?
November the 6th is when the season should launch.
Okay, why?
Okay, so if you have your calendar, your trusty calendar up,
yep,
you can take a look, and the 20. So the first, it's hard for me to see. It's a little. Go back up to October real quick.
Okay.
And so October 1st is when we're gonna get the PTR, and we're gonna get 2 weeks out of that. So that takes you to the 15th, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then they're going to need a couple days to implement the changes that they've made. So give them 2 weeks for that. And that puts them down on the week of the 29th.
Yep.
Right. Okay. The 26th, their World of Warcraft expansion drops. Okay. So if you do it the Friday before, you're going to get like 2 days of people playing. And then they're going to be like, okay, I'm out. The Shadow, a lot of people are going to be like, Shadowlands has dropped. I'm going to play Shadowlands instead. And then on top of that, that's not a whole lot of lead time to get the changes in. All right, so you go to the next week.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can flip down to November for me. And then the next week on the 6th, that gives people a week and a half to play the new WoW expansion. They can come back for the season launch. It'd be phenomenal. The following Tuesday, the 10th, the new Xbox drops. Whether you care about it or not, it's a thing. The new Xbox is going to drop.
But there's no launch title, right?
They have, no, not exactly, but they have Valhalla. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is going to drop. There's a whole bunch of new games that are still coming, even though they're not Microsoft exclusive. There's still a slew of new games that are coming. And then on the 12th is when the new PlayStation drops, and you're going to have all the launch titles for that are going to hit on the 12th as well. And then on the 19th, you have Cyberpunk 2077, which is probably the most hyped up game in the last 5 years. I've never seen this much press for a game. So the 6th is really the window, I feel like, to drop it in. And this is also for personal, because I feel like, I want to play a lot of these other games that are on this list too. So I want it to drop on the 6th. But I feel like that's the biggest window to get the most people to play the launch of the season if you did it that day.
I will also argue that is the best play, but from a different perspective.
Okay.
A ratty perspective.
Okay.
So this,
yeah.
No. This has nothing to do with me. This is a ratty corporate stance. Okay. So obviously this season is dragging on, and it's going to be maybe one of the longest in Diablo 3 history. So people are bored. They're looking for stuff to do. And so people that might not have normally checked out the World of Warcraft expansion might be like, okay, like I don't have anything to do for a bit. The season doesn't come out for another week or two. So I guess I'll like buy this and check it out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you did the Diablo 3 season first, they're like, well, it's only like a couple days from the Diablo 3 season. Like I don't need to be spending money right now. I'll just play Diablo 3. So
Blizzard gets more money
for Blizzard.
I'm with you. Yeah.
But yeah.
And I think it does. I think it does the same thing too with the Xbox stuff. So if you look at November again, if you drop it on the 6th, the Friday before, if you can get people enticed in the season good enough, maybe those guys don't play the Xbox. I mean, they probably already pre-ordered the Xbox if they're getting one on the 10th. Let's be real. They've already bought it. But maybe it doesn't entice you to buy Assassin's Creed on PC or Cyberpunk on PC.
Just buy Diablo 3 on an Xbox.
You could buy it on Xbox and play it on your new Xbox Series X. Did we talk about that last week about the Amazon getting the spikes and people and like people buying Xbox One X?
Yeah.
That's so fucking
That's the
worst naming ever.
Does the season launch date happen the same day for console that it does for PC in Diablo? I don't even know.
Yeah, usually.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just wondering.
I'm I think actually console usually gets it first. They actually patch consoles, I think, submitted, and then like I think Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo push it out. So I think it's usually like right on point,
Gotcha.
So
yeah, so that's it's a decent estimate, because if we say 30 days, so it's Thursday, so 7, 14, 21, 28. I mean, yeah, it's looking like that window. It'd be 36 days.
Would be phenomenal.
Yeah. Which is the average, actually. The past 2 seasons in a row is 36 days. So maybe, team.
Yep. Let's do it.
Listen, guys, I tried for them to start the season on the 9th of October because I'm leaving. But
yeah. So when are you leaving? We're going to miss a podcast on the 12th?
We'll miss the podcast on the 13th.
13th.
And the 20th.
Okay. You're out 2 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you schedule that during the WoW expansion so I could just WoW the whole night? Well, that's cool. You're back in time for the WoW expansion, though. So that's good.
Maybe
You're
I
gonna be
should
playing that
change my
Demon Hunter
dates or
thing, right?
something. Oof.
Yeah, doing it.
Ugh.
Hype's getting big for me, man. That's it, guys. Oh no, we still got Twitter questions. Holy crap!
Yeah, chill.
The longest
the fuck out.
podcast ever. You guys thought you were done. Twitter questions, man. If you guys want to submit questions to Lord Fluffy or myself for the podcast, you can join our Discords. Exclamation point Discord if you're listening live, or the links in the YouTube channel below. You can also submit them at ThaPChild or at Lord__Fluffy on Twitters. Landenberg says, since you guys are all knowing about the Witch Doctor class, that sounded sarcastic, sir. Do you think the idea to let the Ring of Emptiness work with pets again? Or what? Or do you like the idea to let it work with pets again? Worked a few seasons ago, considered too powerful. Since pet builds need a desperate buff, this would be a quick fix. So the Ring of Emptiness, I believe, gives a damage increase to enemies affected by Haunt and maybe Locust Swarm. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would break things with Legacy of Dreams damage, then maybe not.
Huh?
But
You said Witch Doctor stuff and you lost me.
yeah. Ring of Emptiness, should it work with pets? Yeah, it should. Why doesn't it? It says your damage is increased by 300%. Pets aren't your damage. Silly.
Should.
Okay. Yep. Fluff has no opinion. Jeffrey says, I think it should. I think they should do it as long as it's not game breaking. Jeffrey says, what is the best movie theater experience you've ever had? You any good movie stories? One jumps to mind pretty quick for me.
Good movie experience?
Yeah, I guess.
Like what sets of?
So
I don't
know if this is what he means, but I remember when Lord of the Rings came out. Friends and myself, we bought midnight tickets to the midnight show for Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, the first one. That was the most hyped venue I've ever been to. Like they had people, and I've been to a lot of midnight shows. I've seen like Phantom Menace when it came out. I saw that at midnight. I've seen pretty much any major movie that's come out at midnight and done midnight showings. I've gone to them. I think it's fun to do that. So, but I went to see the Fellowship of the Ring at a midnight show, and we went to, and I don't even remember the name of the theater. There's this really big, kind of famous theater in St. Louis. It's now pretty run down and a piece of shit, but back in 2000, they had just restored it. And it was cool, man. It was a cool midnight show. It was huge. The atmosphere was awesome. The movie was the shit. So it was great.
You know, I saw the when the Hobbit or whatever came out.
Mm-hmm.
I did like a marathon.
Oh wow!
Where we watched all three in the theater,
and then the Hobbit followed up. Yeah, that was cool. I wanted to do that, man.
It was terrible. It was just the most miserable experience. Like, you know, a bunch of nerdy dudes in a confined space for, 9+ hours watching these Lord of the Rings movies and then waiting for The Hobbit after that. Like, it was awful. That was, I guess, my most awful movie experience.
Were they like all in your space or what?
You're sitting right next to people and it's like there's not a lot of air circulation, I guess, in that particular movie theater. It's a really nice theater, but
that actually sounds fun. I think, that would be something that would entice me.
It's like BlizzCon, but with poor air circulation. So I'm sure BlizzCon would be stanky.
I would do that if you could do one of the new reserve seating theaters. Do you have reserved seating theaters in case? I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like that would be cool if you had a reserved seating. They actually have some of the ones here that will serve you food, like restaurant food. They have like these table trays that'll pull out and stuff. It's kind of cool. I would do that. So,
but aren't you ever afraid to like go out because like you just get murdered in St. Louis, right?
Yeah, pretty much. You get mugged every time you go get the mail. It's insane. So toxic, man. Maester Magus says, "What's the weirdest phone destruction you've ever had?" Or a piece of electronics. So this is inspired by your recent tweet.
Yeah, I'll pull up.
If you guys haven't seen this tweet,
Yeah.
Check it out.
So on my Twitter, guys, follow me on Twitter, by the way. Basically, my grill was driving back from Wichita, trying to put miles on a new motorcycle, and I have one of these RAM mounts. And RAM mounts are pretty good. Like, I've never had any issue whatsoever with like my phone even moving off the thing. But hers falls off while she's on the highway.
Didn't have it secured properly?
She had it secured, but I guess the headwind was just like so strong that it just like ripped off. And so it flies off, a car runs over it, and then as she's walking up to it to like recover the pieces, it catches on fire because I guess the battery tore open. It's like the battery acid like caught on fire.
It must have been a Samsung if it caught on fire.
But yeah, I put it in a bag of rice and it's all good now. So
yeah, they fixed it. So tell them what you did at the store.
Yeah, so we go into to get a replacement, and we had the spare parts with us, and we walk right in, and I go up to the clerk and it's like, yeah, we got a trade. We got a phone for trade, and we like came in like the plastic bag with this.
On this phone that you're seeing right now. You guys are listening to the audio version. It's basically, imagine the most effed up phone you could possibly imagine. Like, you can't even tell it's a phone, basically.
Yeah.
So the weirdest distress. So me personally, like, I'm a computer geek. I've been one my whole life. I'm pretty responsible with my electronics. I'm gonna jinx myself now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever really effed anything up. I broke the screen on one of my old iPhones, but I was somebody stole one of my iPhones, and they stole it out of I went to pick my kids up from the daycare, and somebody literally opened my car door and stole my iPhone out of my console of my car. Just craziness. And so then I had my old iPhone from before that one. Like, I never get rid of them. I always keep them. So I used it for like a month until the new ones were about to come out, because it was literally right before the new ones are dropped. So I used that for a month. So I did drop that one getting out of my Vivet in the garage. It fell like this far. It literally fell like an inch in the ground, and the screen just shattered. I'm like, wow. But I only had to keep it for a couple of weeks. That's the only thing I think I've even broken, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty
yeah.
safe.
I had a really solid record up until my last iPhone. I'd like dropped the thing like 1,000 times too. It's not even like that I'm like careful or anything. It's just like it lived through so many drops, and then finally like I dropped it like maybe 7 inches to the ground, and like just totally shattered the screen. I was just like, how does this make any sense?
Hit it perfectly.
Yeah.
Like,
so
that's
cool. My brother,
anything bigger than that?
Like, had his phone like in his pocket, and he was like getting out of his car. He's got like a really like low car to the ground, and it like slid between like the side.
Yeah, that's exactly what my phone did.
And then he like was trying to get to it, and he like he's got like one of those electronic seats. He's like, and then got caught in that, and like just like pulled the thing in half and smashed it to 1,000 pieces.
Yeah, so mine, like, my Vet sits really low to the ground also, and when I was getting out, it was actually in my pocket, but I had sports shorts on, and so like I guess the corner was like it wasn't super deep in there. That's what she said. And so when I got out of the car, like it just slipped out and just cracked.
Yeah, you just wear yoga pants, man.
Yeah, I should. I need something tighter. Raziel, other than that, my kids have broken my stuff. I haven't personally broken my stuff. My daughter had my iPad in the kitchen one day, and the cat like ran past her really quickly, and she freaked out and literally just threw the iPad up in the air. And I'm like watching in slow-mo. I'm like, no, and it just destroyed it. So I'm like, oh my god. Maester may just we already did that one. Raziel says, will you play next season if the clones go live as is with the hard CC skills? Will it make you not use pylons at all?
For me personally, like, if I play, I shouldn't say if, like when I play the season start, I'll probably push with Lawn Scythe again. It's the best or most enjoyable Necro push build right now, and CC doesn't super matter there. It would suck not to have that on demand, like oh shit, everything's done and I can heal back up to full real quick, but like it wouldn't really impact me that much. So yeah, it wouldn't really matter for me.
I think it
personally.
depends a lot on what the meta is, on how long I'm even gonna play this season. Like, let's if we're being completely honest, next season is gonna be so juicy with so many things. So we got to see how it plays. If the CC skills stay and they really drastically affect what I decide I wanted to play, and I would end up playing something that's a recycle from previous seasons, then yeah, I think it would affect how much I play a little bit. But ultimately, probably not. It probably won't be enough to deter me from playing, or enough to keep me from playing the season later on down the road. I don't think they're going to make it in. Like I'm willing to bet that none of those CCs actually make it into the final thing. You guys got to realize this is going to be the first wave of PTR too. Think about the monk set. The very first time we saw the monk set, do you guys remember how bad that monk set was? And then we ended up with a justice set, which is actually a very fun set. If they could somehow fix the Tempest Rush resetting bug where it randomly drops off for no reason, that set would be pretty good. Be pretty darn good. So, Demonic Grizz says, "What are your thoughts on the massive skill tree they gave a look at today?" He didn't put massive in quotes,
Did he
but
capitalize
I
it?
no, but I kind of feel like that he meant to. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like that he meant to. So we talked about it, but let's just, yeah.
Yeah, let's do let's do a fluff hates real quick.
Okay.
One, I didn't love that line personally. It's not necessarily a fluff hates, but what I will say, the one thing that I keep seeing Activision Blizzard doing that is getting under my skin is they always say like, oh, internally people love it. Like that literally means nothing. So like just stop. They just always say that when it comes to like any game, like, and when you're talking about the next COD, like, oh, internally they're saying we think it's like the best COD we've ever made, or internally the Diablo 4 updates or the itemization updates have been very well received. Like,
yeah, do you think your internal developers are like, well, fucking okay?
You work with these people, right?
Like, yeah, you're working with the Shadowlands team, right? And Shadowlands is like, well, it's okay. Legion was better. Like, of course they're not going to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, it's not as good as BFA, and we're like, oh shit, you know. So, yeah, I agree with that. You know, it's all PR stuff.
Right.
It's like,
next episode we're like, internally we think this episode is the best we've ever done.
Internally, guys, this is the best new meta.
Between us two people, this is the best podcast on the internet. Internally,
Yep. Onion says, are you okay with active spells being on the tree, or would you rather just have passives?
I'd rather just have passives, to be honest.
Yeah. To me, it feels like a spell book replacement, and those spells should just be in your spell book. And I feel like it's added for filler, because I feel like they didn't have enough to make the tree meaningful, and they kind of put them on there. It's ultimately the same decision. You're still choosing a handful of skills that can go on your bar. So whether they come from the skill tree or whether they come from your spell book, it's the same thing. I want to see the nodes change the spell's behavior. I think some of the things on the node were pretty good. Like the one that changed the way that the spark worked, or whatever that skill was called. That's fine. If you choose that node, it changes the behavior of your spell. But to unlock the spell by having to pick it, I don't know, man. It's the more I deep dive into this skill tree system, the more I become disappointed with it, because it's not even remotely close to Wolcen. Like Wolcen was kind of like, okay, they need to hit this mark. That was kind of my gauge. Like Wolcen had a skill tree. I was like, oh, there's some things on here and there's choices, but it wasn't so overwhelming that you're like, holy crap. It wasn't PoE, freak people out. And I don't think they even came close to Wolcen's skill tree. You know?
Yeah. No.
Like I looked at Wolcen's skill tree for a long time. The very first time I opened it up, I'm like, oh crap. And I'm like looking at things and reading things and doing things. And like on this one, if you gave me this in game, we could look at this skill tree and we could be done with it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We could spend 5 minutes and we've looked at every fucking node on the tree. Okay. Close the page.
And that's, you know, one of the things I talk about is like, you're not thinking about the skill tree or how you spec your character outside the game if that's all you have to work with. Like that's not, you're not like, it's not keeping you up at night. It's not keeping you addicted if like, well, I use this skill, so therefore I go this route. Like that's it. that's so not exciting.
Yeah, so it's kind of depressing to me personally. I think the more I think about it, the more I'm like, dang, man, it's really, it's not. And but initially when I saw the tree, I'm like, well, this is better.
Yeah.
Like I said, once you start breaking it down, it ends up like, is it really that much better? Um, man, the blogs have felt really empty for a long time, and it makes me wonder like how much either they're not sharing with us or they just don't have a whole lot. Because like they teased us with Endgame but didn't tell us anything about it. They showed us the mage enchant system, which is okay, I guess. The skill tree hasn't changed really that much from the skill twig. If you really break it down, like Fruff did a really good job of breaking that down and showing how it hasn't changed really that much. And then like the demonic angelic system, they just said that we don't like it. They didn't say like, oh, we didn't like it and this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
They just like we don't like it. Like it's not finished. It's like what like we're not getting a whole lot of real juice in any of these updates, So and it sucks, man. Like it's still cool to get them, and I'm still happy, and I'm not trying to be negative because I'm glad we got it, and it was cool to look at, and I'm glad that they're changing the angelic demonic power. That's a good thing, and I'm glad that they're making progress on the skill tree, and it looks to be better than it did last time. But
yeah, I think it's a good call out too, because it's awesome that we're getting these updates. If anything, right, if they continue down this path of this game's looking to be pretty shallow, like at least none of us are going to be surprised, when this game finally comes out and, we're excited and we play for like a month or two and then we're pretty bored because the game turned out to be just as shallow as we saw. Obviously, we'll be disappointed, but at least we saw it coming instead of being like totally blindsided by just a trash game.
Mm-hmm.
So
it can't be trash. It can't be trashed. It's got to be good, dude. This is like, it's got to be good, man. They can't screw this up, Blizzard. Gotta listen, man. But
yeah,
man,
I mean, I think...
Am I going to be forced to play PoE 2? For fuck's sakes, please.
If you don't play PoE 2, I swear to God. I think at the very least, and this is what we've feared from the beginning, is, they're making a game that's like a fun arcade game. Like, I think that it will probably be pretty well received at the end of the day. Like, people will probably like it. Those of us that are already ARPG fans, already Diablo fans, will probably ultimately be disappointed. It's kind of, what's probably going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. We'll see. Like they're not sharing a lot of info with us, and it like when we saw it at BlizzCon, I'm like, yeah, man, maybe we'll get it in like mid 21 or something. Like Blizzard's far away, and now it's like 23. Like I don't even feel like it's even in the realm of like being close to being done.
Yeah, if they came out tomorrow and said, yeah, this is coming out in like 2022, I'd probably be like, ugh, like that's like this is gonna be bad. So I think if it comes out before 23, it's probably like guaranteed bad. Which sucks, like they want it now, but
they've been developing Cyberpunk for 9 years. Cyberpunk 2077, that's going to come out in November, has been in development for 9 years. They spent $125 million producing this game. I don't know what Diablo 4's budget is. I don't know how long it's been in development. I don't even know if Cyberpunk's a good game. It could be garbage. I don't know. But dude, 9 years and $125 million bucks. That's a lot of money, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're doing, let's say that they have a 7-year timetable for Diablo 4 and they're pumping 75 million into it, let's say half a Cyberpunk, you know what I mean? Like just say they're putting 75 mil, then like they can't afford to ruin the game by having it be so shallow people quit in 3 months. Like if they spend all this money and the game's super shallow, 3 months from now their monetization schemes don't matter. Nothing matters because they don't have a player base. And then when you put an expansion out or Diablo 5, you're killing yourself, man. Like they can't. I'm nervous.
Yeah, I think that
I'm just nervous.
That's a good call out as well. Nervous. Because if the game's super shallow, like Diablo 3 was when it first came out, like there's so many people they're gonna buy Diablo 4, and they're gonna feel so scorned by that purchase because it wasn't the game they wanted it to be. that they'll never come back. Even if like, you know, Reaper of Souls happens for Diablo 4 and, you know, it's a better basically re-release, then it won't matter. Like they're never going to recover that player base.
No, you get one shot. You get one shot at it. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, again, that was a move that, and I keep talking about Cyberpunk like I know it's a good game. I haven't played it. I don't know, but I am hyped up for it.
Trash game.
But they postponed the game and they said, listen, man, we want to make sure the launch is a good launch. We don't want to launch a shit product because they saw Anthem. Like Anthem hasn't recovered from that. Like it never will recover. Fallout 76 will I don't care what they did to Fallout 76. I'm never going to play it. They could drop an expansion for Fallout 76 and be like, this is the best game ever.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you know, all I remember is that you guys scam people out of some canvas duffel bags and, you know, some black mold masks, and I'm not buying that stuff, you know, so don't do it.
Is there anything that would make you go back to Anthem?
Anthem had such a beautiful world and such a cool design, and I already own it. So if Anthem, I got debated by Anthem, right? I bought it. And
okay, let's just say Anthem comes out with an expansion. You had to pay $30.
Fuck no, I'm not doing it.
Well, that's what we're talking about for Diablo 4, right? Because people didn't just get Reaper of Souls.
That's the thing. No, and like and Anthem could put out the best expansion ever, and I will never know because I won't give them money unless it's free. I won't play it.
Yeah.
Unless it's a free update, I will never spend money on that game ever again. Because they debated me so bad the first time. Like I pre-ordered it and I spent the $60 and I literally played the game for like 4 hours. And I'm like, this game is dog shit. This is horrible.
And that's literally the Reaper of Souls scenario. Is like, this was bad at launch. Give us more money and we promise it'll be better this time. Smile.
Yeah, no. And it's like, no, you can't you can't do that. So yeah, I will play Anthem when it comes out in 2.0 if it's free. If it costs money, then they can literally they should refund my money for the last one. I feel like that's one of the worst purchases I've ever made in video gaming. What's the worst purchase you've ever made? What's the game you regret?
The only game
I have two
ever refunded was Bless. It's the only game I ever refunded. Bless, yeah.
What was that? Was an MMO, right?
Yep.
Was that the Korean one recently?
Not recently. It's like last year.
Yeah. I remember that one. Yeah. Age of Conan.
Who?
And that came out in like 2007 or something. I don't know. That was the worst game. That was supposed to be the WoW killer. That was the worst game ever in life. I uninstalled it in like an hour and a half. And then Anthem. Those are my two.
Chat literally just reminded me. Final Fantasy 7. Literally the worst thing I've ever done in my life.
Get out of here, dude.
Return that PS4, return the game, get it out of here. I never want to think about it again. Dumbest shit I've ever played.
No, there's no way. Like, I know you don't mean that. There's no way you mean it. There's no, I don't mean it. Believe it. Dude.
Believe it.
I don't believe it.
Believe it.
So you're just memeing, dude. You're memeing. So someday I'm gonna get you to admit, like, yeah, it was okay.
No,
it was all right.
Literally never.
It was okay. That's it. You didn't like the Jesse scenes? The extra Jesse story?
Especially, I'm not a weeb. All right, chill out.
I didn't say, do you like Jesse? You like the Jesse scenes?
Yeah. What do you mean then? I don't understand.
The extra story they put in.
Oh, who fucking cares? Story, Omega Law?
You bought a story game.
Yeah, because I wanted to play the same game that I played 15 years ago.
Okay, Mr. Llama. Okay.
Yeah,
I get it. I get it now.
Listen, if Diablo 2 Remaster comes out and it doesn't have the option to like keep the same base game just as it was, all those people are going to flip the fuck out.
Yeah, and they can. That's fine. I want a new game. I don't want the same old game.
I want a new game as well, but it better be an option for those guys or the world will like just implode.
Okay, so if they would have remastered Final Fantasy VII and the current game. Okay. All right. Even if it was just like a HD version texture pack. And
No. Can't. The game looks like shit.
Okay, so they had to like rebuild the entire game and voice actor
like we thought it was going to be. Yeah, by the way. Yeah. Yep.
I'm done. All right, guys. End of the podcast. fluff makes no logical sense. Final Fantasy VII was good. You should go purchase it.
Okay, mister, I've never played Halo multiplayer. Get out of my face right now.
It's not even the same level,
It
man.
literally is worse. It is worse.
It's different. If you guys want to catch more of me, you can catch me at ThaPChild everywhere, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all those places.
Yeah. And I'm Lord_Fluffy, double those underscores on the Twitter where you can find me constantly talking shit on PTR. So make sure to follow.
All right.
And we'll see you boys next week talking about PTR and our thoughts. Exciting. Peace.
Yep.